Hey everybody, this is Rydo and we're back to Yu-Gi-Oh! Master Duel and video game news. Today is Monday, August 1st. So, over the weekend, I decided to be sleepy enough to actually go to sleep around 10 in the evening, and then I woke up at like 6 in the morning because of that, and then immediately went back to sleep. Somehow, doing that seemed to have given me a bit of a catch up in my infinite, impossible to ever actually catch up insomnia. At least enough today so that we are actually streaming very early. So that's good. Also, the new time frame for the YouTube shorts, for daily PC game shorts, seems to be working particularly well. Even on Sunday, I was getting a significant amount of views. Um, the danger in it being so successful is that there almost is this argument to focus too much on the YouTube Shorts, which it would be a mistake for me personally. Um, but also, we know now they've come out and said that the YouTube algorithm at the moment does not connect YouTube Short views or any history of your YouTube channel as far as long form or live videos. So it is very possible at the moment that my YouTube channels all of a sudden will become very successful in the YouTube Shorts and completely unsuccessful in everything else, uh, which would be weird, but whatever. I'm not going to look a gift horse in the mouth. It does seem like it is working very well today, very well Sunday. If anything, Sunday also proved that daily shorts seems to be the right move instead of skipping the weekends. Um, Over the weekend, otherwise, I accidentally, I guess it's slightly bad news, but if anything, it just made me get off my butt and do something different. I accidentally deleted the Excel sheet that I was using to schedule videos, which means years and years of like record keeping was lost. But in all actuality, it was kind of useless record keeping anyway, so um, it didn't really kind of matter. Um, what it forced me to do is make a new Excel sheet, and in rethinking things and starting from scratch, I was able to make something that I think will be better integrated and just quicker to use and easier to use with my macro, which now exists to schedule videos. It's not 100% connected, and the macro I use is also problematic. Chrome has installed this thing where a safety feature where plugins really can only run for like 5 minutes and then they get shut off, which, or scripts can only run for 5 minutes and they get shut off, which plugins in this case would include scripts, one or the other or both. Which means my macro will just kind of, I think, inherently stop doing anything after 5 minutes of scheduling videos, so I'm gonna have to baby it even more than I had to baby it anyways. Which is not the direction you want to go. You want it to be automated more. So we made it to platinum, so I should be at gold tier 5 for this new season. The season went over. What was the other notification? Let's just read this. Daily mission improvements. We made improvements on daily missions based on the achievement rate of each mission and your feedback. Daily missions for dueling and ranked duels are also now eligible for competition in duels in events, which means going forward, hopefully, when there's a festival, we'll have some overlap, and the following missions have been rebalanced. Before, there was a inflict your opponent 15,000 damage to in ranked duels, or declare an attack to to a monster in ranked duels 5 times. They've now reduced that significantly now to inflict damage to your opponent to 8,000, so they basically cut it almost in half. And then they went over half as far as declaring attack on a monster. So cool. That does seem like we are going to now have better, less gameplay necessarily needed. Some of these other ones also seem like they might be slightly smaller, or that we have some different daily quests here. Destroy a card in general, I don't know if that existed before. A normal summon it 3 times seems fairly easy too. Which is good, yeah. Ideally, that's exactly what we want to see. Is we want to see situations where the daily quests are consistently always done, and there is never a stockpile. Does still seem like their timing on the daily quests are oddly month long, which seems weird. Like, wouldn't it make a lot more sense for these to cancel themselves out in 3 days, or in 8 days, or in 9 days? Also, no button here to cancel something out and say, I'm just not gonna ever accomplish that. I imagine they'll probably stick to their guns as far as the lifetime achievements. Most people, I imagine, are somewhere around where I am, because I really haven't been going that hard as far as all of the lifetime achievements. So, yeah, I could see definitely some people who played the game a lot more than me being a lot further along, but I imagine people are probably about 50% of the way there as far as all the daily quests. Now, there still is a question as far as whether there are other secrets, although I really don't know what other thing I could have even done potentially to unlock any more secret missions if they do exist. And we don't have a ton of money or anything specifically to buy. And we have solo missions. I need to make a special solo mission. So, yeah, as I was remaking the spreadsheet, the Excel sheet, Google Sheets, Excel sheets to now it's just play rank and get back up to platinum, maybe even make it to diamond. This is a decent month, I think, in which we have a good chance of making it to diamond if we get really lucky and just put a lot of focus on that. But yeah, as I was remaking the spreadsheet, I realized that I only had until August the 3rd. That's when Fallout 3 ends, and I hadn't scheduled anything else, so I needed to schedule something else. Now I'm a little bit further ahead. I'm not doing the greatest of jobs on the spreadsheet of making a chart to quite show what I'm trying to show, but I would like something to give me an at-a-glance depiction as far as how fast, how far ahead in the future videos are scheduled. Now, there is also a danger here, certainly, that I really just don't have that much footage. And yeah, over the weekend I didn't play any of Breath of the Wild which could have been a distraction instead of trying and mostly just failing at installing RASP AP, which is a Raspberry Pi access point Wi-Fi software, multiple times. I will almost certainly eventually figure it out, but at the moment there's enough of an instance where what happens is I need to install it in a certain order, 2 or 3 different pieces of software, or I need to get the configuration set up, and I'm just kind of failing at it, and then it's just easier to start over from scratch again and try to get it right the next time instead of trying to fix things. Like, arguably it should not be as difficult as it is or has been, but I'm trying 2 different projects in parallel, both using RASP AP in part, and as that is, let's see, this may be a little premature to do this. Well, quick victory there. So that was part of my focus too. And then, but mostly I really didn't accomplish as much. I think I slept a lot more over this weekend than I probably remember or realize. And I definitely need to make some more footage this week, and I definitely need to schedule more things. And so it's looking to be a week that really would benefit from a lot of productivity, certainly, and hopefully we can accomplish that, but I don't have a great track record of being particularly productive. If anything, I also need to take about a month off after this whole Amazon Prime Day away from sales, which hopefully that I can take at least a couple weeks off from that, because there's yet another sale that once again ended up causing me to buy something that I needed but didn't really need that bad, and it does feel like I arguably overspent too much on Prime Day for things that were not top priority, when I could have reevaluated that, and I'll definitely consider that in the future. Also, just with the whole like Tuya home integration stuff, I'm still trying to work with all of that, and got probably a little too obsessed around that. I got a Tuya compatible like key finder device that it does have the one benefit of setting off an alarm when your keys actually get away from your phone, instead of like the Samsung Smart Tag, which doesn't really have that benefit. But then unlike the Samsung Smart Tag, it doesn't have programmable modes to allow it to click the button once and perform an action, click the button, double tap the button to do a different action, or hold the button to find the device. Instead, it is pretty much only hold the button to find the device, and that's it. Plus, even at that, it doesn't have the ultra wideband that the Samsung Smart Tag Plus has, so finding the device is a lower experience where you just make it beep. You don't have any real signal detection there, and the Bluetooth connection limits things somewhat drastically, because as soon as it gets out of that Bluetooth range, that's pretty much it. You're not going to have any way of communicating with it, which is true for the Samsung Smart Tag also, but slightly different experience there. What it is, it is good, I suppose, that I only bought one of these detectors, and it is still like the 2-in-1 I found. People complained about it breaking after a month or so, and so that's going to be the real test. Does this thing even really last, or is it just a completely cheap garbage Chinese product? Which very possibly it is. But it's not doing everything I'd hoped. I'd hoped that it would act both as a key finder and as a help, I've fallen and I can't get up device. That you could press the button or hold the button after a while, and then it would allow you to send a text message or something, set off an alarm, trigger something like that. And like the idea there is to just try to have as much functionality in one device instead of having multiple devices. But nope, that doesn't work. You can't have it connect or do anything anyways, to send messages, which seems weird. Because that feels like that should be something that would work. Let's see. Just go ahead and take this out, even though I don't think that does anything. I guess I'm glad that Yu-Gi-Oh doesn't have any like crazy unfair cards. They try to be fairly balanced. That there isn't a card, for instance, that just says, if you in this turn show this card to your opponent and you actually win instead of lose. That would be pretty unfair. Yu-Gi-Oh has probably some of the wildest, craziest cards of the main collectible card games I've ever played, but they are still fairly well balanced. Hey, well, let's just, I guess, attack. Like, if there is a trap here that he can activate. I do think I finally got the wireless thermostat humidity detector that I was having a little bit of trouble. I do think I've got that set up fairly well, It's just going to be a test on just to see how fast the batteries get drained on it. That one device in particular seems to be running Android as part of its operating system, where everything else seems to be more likely to be running some embedded software like on an ESP32 chip, and running a full operating system like Android is inevitably going to cost a lot more in battery usage. Let's see. So we need to actually play here. Yeah, it says the battery level right now is at 100% still, which that would make sense. And that should be the case. The battery should run at least 6 months minimum, and yet somehow I had one die had a set of batteries die in a very quick amount of time. Although I probably need to check all the settings on it, come to think of it, because I may have just reset the whole settings. I would explain what I just looked at. Well, I should do something on this. So let's just summon that. Go into battle mode. And do the most amount of damage. Then in the turn. The light bulbs, the Wi-Fi light bulbs I installed are working fine, so. Yeah, I guess two out of 3 might not be too bad. I think these settings are right. Alright, well, I'll leave everything alone and just assume that everything is working correctly. Oh, and I guess here, as we're still just talking nonsense in the accountability section, I did also check MXR's YouTube channel, which 6 months ago he was really pushing the whole idea of YouTube family friendliness as far as just how far you could get away until you get a community guidelines strike, and he, I think, actually got a community guidelines strike because he was pushing it, frankly, way further than I thought they would allow. And after that community guidelines strike, he seems to have pretty much abandoned MXR mods. That being said, he and his girlfriend, which I don't know if they aren't really trying to push the girlfriend more, they have a kind of Twitch MXR plays backup. I think it's Twitch first, and every single screenshot in the past 6 months since that community guidelines has pushed it further and further as far as just how much under boob and cleavage and skin and butt can you show in the title. And honestly, I wouldn't really call it clickbait, because I think that is pretty much the content that they are making. I doubt MXR Plays was ever even applied to be monetized. So he is getting between 500,000 and 1 million views per video. But I wouldn't be surprised if it is views for nothing, and unless they have like some Raid Shadow Legends type sponsorship, which would make sense if they did. What does that mean for me as a YouTube content creator? Not a ton, but it does really show how the thumbnails seem to drastically improve views. Like, every thumbnail that showed a little bit more side boob, a little bit more under cleavage, a little bit more top cleavage, a little bit more butt, anything that shows actual skin tended to get 250,000 to 500,000 views more than very similar videos that would be, I imagine he can, for him and his channel, underperformers. So much so that even the thumbnails that will straight up have sex toys in them, which you'd think that wouldn't be allowed on YouTube, and I imagine the channel will eventually get struck and put away. But like anything that even implied sex acts or implied nudity performed significantly worse than actual skin on the thumbnail. So yeah, teasing or lewd imagery doesn't seem to have anywhere as good of a click-through rate. And oddly, it seems like that there isn't instantaneous penalty for going to that extreme, other than just not being monetized by YouTube, because you would think that looking at even some of the thumbnails from 6 months ago from MXR Plays, even one of those should potentially have gotten his channel completely banned. MXR Mods also seems to have not really cared too much or done very good security, because MXR Mods channel was the one that got hacked a few months ago maybe. I think it was 3 or 4 weeks ago. And that hacked uploaded video did get removed. Unfortunately, the one thing as a YouTube content creator that MXR Mods as a single channel has been unable to accomplish is that they really haven't made any significant pushback against YouTube and their family-friendly guidelines. We haven't seen the line move much. Like, it is still very much a nebulous, we just want it to be friendly for brand advertising concept, but it's not like YouTube over the past year, and maybe this has more to do with the pandemic than anything else. It doesn't feel like that has been a particularly higher standard that's been raised up. There hasn't been any major controversies in the past year or two. So we've all kind of settled into where I think YouTube wants content creators to be. I would say MXR Plays and MXR Mods still pushing the envelope quite far there. And I would also say that MXR mods had a lot more lewd and implications as far as the thumbnails, and a lot more censorship in the actual videos, whereas MXR Plays seems to have abandoned that idea completely, and their thumbnails are of real people, not not modded CG characters from Skyrim or Fallout, which I feel like MXR mods in particular did have more ground to stand on by having adult mods for Skyrim shown off versus talking about actual or showing actual people. Of course, it would be fairly weird if YouTube did become a more open, censorship-free site, because that's not really the audience now, and you have to kind of just live with the audience you've formed. And so I would be somewhat shocked if YouTube all of a sudden said this is no place for kids, and that we are going to allow more adult content, because we know for a fact that there is just a ridiculous amount of kids on the YouTube site. Right. Let's do this. Take this one. Treat that as 2. Take that one. Treat that one as 2. Put that on the field. Do I have anything else to say? The African-American actress lady in the original Star Trek series died at age 98. That doesn't have anything really too much to do with video games, although I'm sure she must have had a voice likeness in some video game at some point. She was the lady, I'm fairly certain, that was the first African-American interracial white guy with a William Shatner kiss on TV. Also, I know she told a story quite often that she was thinking about quitting being on Star Trek the original series, and then Martin Luther King Jr. literally told her not to quit because him and his daughters were inspired by seeing her on TV being depicted as an equal and a capable scientist. Inevitably, we will start to see the remainders of the Star Trek original series dying. Like, there's really no way around it. It's just a matter of age and numbers. If anything, it's going to start just becoming shocking, the order as far as who dies, because you'd think that William Shatner would have been higher in that list, but I guess he's kind of lucked out. it will also start to become a situation where there's fewer people left, so even secondary characters are going to start dying and get mentioned. Let's start going through the video game news. Today, there really is no reason for this stream to go super long. I need to do scheduling and try to accomplish anything at all. While we're after today, might as well just activate all these spells. That way we can just accomplish this as much as possible. We have an interesting transition here between a fictional character that was empowered through the narrative to a fictional character that seems to be increasingly disenfranchised and disempowered through narrative. There's a Video Games Chronicle article here that says the next Tomb Raider game could have Lara Croft leading a team of Tomb Raiders. The alleged script for the in-development game features a Lara Croft at the top of her game, also older, which the game series originally has been Lara Croft, Tomb Raider. It was about Lara Croft. Every game in the 12 or so Lara Crofts before the reboot was about Lara Croft. Arguably, in the reboot, they did some major changes to Lara Croft, making her younger, making in the reboot first game this being her first main mission. She is, throughout the story of the first game, shown to grow and become more capable, but she never really gets to the action star with two guns level that you would have seen in previous games. She is more slow, cold, calculating, using the bow in the first game, and there is kind of a de-emphasis on Lara Croft in some parts because you're really trying to save this friend of yours the whole time, and then at a small point you're also getting back together with the other people on the boat in the first game, even though they don't really play much of a role in the first game, and thank goodness for that. And then I would say, having played Lara Croft 2, it doesn't feel like much changed different with her in Lara Croft 2. But yeah, she didn't feel like she really grew or changed much. I haven't gotten around to playing Lara Croft 3, but in this potential fourth game that is going to, I think they're leaning towards a soft reboot yet again. If all of a sudden she's leading other Tomb Raiders, then the series at that point is so not about Lara Croft. It's only 1/4 of the game is about her. That seems very odd. Lara Croft, kind of uniquely, not really a leader in any of the previous games that I know of. Like, she's much more of a loner character. But yeah, and at a certain point, it's not even just the you just want her in with giant boobs and hot pants argument as much as you've just written a completely different character and called it Lara Croft. You've not followed the personality of that character at all. And even if you like the Lara Croft of the reboot series, which as a reboot character she was fine, although the game in the reboot series really did seem to have a perverse desire to hurt the character and masochistically depict her being injured in the death scenes. This feels like this is yet another case of changing things, or kind of like a dislike of the character you're actually forced and saddled with. And maybe that is exactly the case, is that they just don't they just don't like Lara Croft as a character, and they like that Tomb Raider as a name probably sees them sell a few more thousand copies of a game, but they would ideally like to just kill Lara Croft off as a character and just have a Tomb Raider series. And it definitely feels like, just from the headline, I haven't even gotten down to below the headline here, that you're opening the door to the possibility that you're experimenting with having one of these new team of Tomb Raiders replace her, and that would be interesting, certainly, or kind of infuriating if one of the major female lead characters gets replaced with potentially a male characters. That would be, I think, another smack in the face for what the Tomb Raider series is all about. You do definitely have a problem, certainly, with old games like the Tomb Raider series. Just not. It really can't be much about much of anything, anyways. Like, the original Tomb Raider series were 3D platforming games with shooting animals and finding keys and going through dungeons. The reboot series got rid of the tomb aspect of Tomb Raider, so they already in those games ruined the idea of there really being tombs, and it wasn't until the third game that you start to have anything that even starts to feel like a tomb. In a lot of ways, the Tomb Raider reboot, as far as the tombs in the Tomb Raider reboot, not too far off from the shrines in Zelda Breath of the Wild, where ideally you would have wanted a Zelda-like dungeon in Zelda Breath of the Wild, and instead you're getting these shrines that are very small and few in general. Alright, how many cards do we have in here? I don't think we have enough. Let's actually read this article instead of just speculating. According to script allegedly being used to cast the unrevealed game actors, the next Tomb Raider is internally known as Project Jawbreaker. It's an action-adventure game set in modern-day world rocked by a mysterious cataclysm, which I feel like the cataclysm started or happened in the previous game, so that doesn't really feel like a soft reboot. The project is looking to cast an authentic British actress in their mid-30s. Why age gate it when you're either going to do, at best, you're just going to do face scans, and then you could de-age a face scan just as well. Like, yeah, age discrimination, hugely a problem in acting. In the prototype of Emily Blunt or Rosamund Pike, which means they want somebody cheap that looks or sounds like this. And the role will involve romantic scenes with another female character, which I don't believe there has ever been any indication whatsoever that Lara Croft was interested in women. If anything, I think there's been a lot of flirtation and hint that she was straight in previous games. And I don't think there's been any indication in previous games that she was even into like three-ways. So if you were saying with another female character and a man, if that was what they meant by that, that still doesn't make sense. In fact, that's an interesting thought. Has there ever been a lot of games that have had three-ways in the first place? I know some of the God of War minigames definitely had three-ways, but that might be the only game I can even think of. Even for adult games, it's probably fairly rare. Moving on, it goes, Lara Croft is now at the top of her game, which inherently this also points out that they are jumping over some point in time, some amount of progress. And if she is going to be at the top of her game, you're either not playing as her or you're starting with all of her abilities unlocked, which changes how the games play at a certain level. Because up until this point, the reboot games have had you unlock new abilities throughout the game, and that means this new Lara Croft game, if you play as her and have all the abilities unlocked, is going to be simpler and less probably interesting to play. Gone are days of young and inexperienced women dealing with matters of legacy and familiar reckoning. So basically they're saying this story is not going to have anything to do with her legacy or her family, which are two more plot lines you're killing for maybe no reason. Like, arguably it does kind of reek of a concept of just trying to eliminate her plot lines or eliminate plot lines in general without offering anything new. Yeah, this doesn't feel like yes and impromptu thinking. It feels a lot more like no but, which you're always supposed to do yes and, not no but. Let's see. Lara has let go of her childhood and fully embraced a life of adventure. Her legacy career has been lauded and printed in tabloids. Tall tales of adventures have inspired a new generation of Tomb Raiders to seek their fortunes in the world. What this feels more like is a multiplayer action slide game too. Like, if you told me this was not going to be a mainline game, I would believe you. Because that would make a little bit more sense if it was like Temple of Osiris and there was 4 players. Because that was kind of a problem with Temple of Osiris, I think was the name of the game. Is that one character was playing as Lara Croft and then another character would have to play as someone different. which that's not gonna feel particularly fair. And if this is a sideline game, then I guess too many people won't really complain anyways, if regardless of what they do with her. I guess there still would be some room for complaint though, because if this is a sideline game and it too is getting rid of the old Tomb Raider visuals and the old Lara Croft visuals, because the sideline games still were kind of embracing Lara Croft looking like the old Lara Croft and in her outfits and kind of in her style. So if they get rid of that even in the sideline games, then there is just no real Lara Croft anymore. They would have just completely killed off that character for an imposter character. With this new phase of her life, Laura fully accepts her place among the ruins. For many years, Laura plunged the depths of forgotten places, played cat and mouse with many nefarious opponents, and worked to uncover and preserve and protect lost secrets of the world, lest they fall in the wrong hands. The script describes what appears to be a team set up for a new Tomb Raider, which could see multiple characters involved in the core gameplay. Additional Tomb Raiders speaking... Nice. Good play here. Have speaking roles in the alleged script, including characters named Devendra and Tanvi, which that's 2 out of 4 female characters, so this might be a whole group of females. As the years have passed, Laura's become lonely at the top. The beginning of the new chapter presents Laura with a quintessentially adult problem, facing something too big to handle alone. Which Uncharted is the comparison certainly to make, as Uncharted is a Lara Croft ripoff, and we've already seen that the Uncharted games did worse as they tried to add different characters and get rid of the main character. I can't imagine that this is going to play much better. That may help me win. On this new adventure, Laura will encounter a challenge she can only overcome with a team at her side. Collaboration is foreign to her. She's always succeeded alone, so the situations, she's a fish out of water. Let's see, is there anything else here in this article? See, and you have this like picture here and a trailer here and a picture here, and I bet all of this is art for previous Lara Croft games, so you probably shouldn't take anything from the images being shown on Video Games Chronicle. An interesting question I think to ask certainly would be, would there have been a point in the original series where Lara Croft would have been better had it been more multiplayer? I don't think the answer is yes, because when you are working with that original concept of 3D platforming to through a tomb, that's not something that gets better with more players. Even when you have like the Portal 2 multiplayer, like when those two characters were working together, that really wasn't a better experience than just playing the main platforming stuff and flinging mechanics of Portal 2. And it definitely feels to me like, and maybe I'm just immediately subconsciously enraged by the idea of this, but it definitely feels to me like they are writing a script from the idea of, let's close off as many plot lines and let's close off as many thoughts as possible with Lara Croft and just eliminate her any character growth or any character in general around Lara Croft as possible. And the one character descriptor that stands out in this description is that, oh, she doesn't know how to work with other people. Which yeah, that's not particularly positive. At the end of the day, it doesn't, to me, and this is, I guess it's just going to be a personal opinion, that description does not sound like a Tomb Raider Lara Croft game in any means. Anyways, not even in the reboot series concept. It doesn't feel like a Lara Croft game. And we've definitely seen similar cases of this same kind of thing happening, where new team, new people get put on a project and they have no reverence for what the series has been, or don't care, or even old people who have been on the project are just tired of making the same games over and over again. And that's where you run into something like Assassin's Creed Origins that has just completely drastically changed what the Assassin's Creed series was and turned it into an RPG game and a microtransaction laden game. I think there were microtransactions in Assassin's Creed Origins. And see, that's not even probably the best example, because Black Flag in a lot of ways added a feature that was big enough to say that even at the point of Black Flag, Assassin's Creed had changed fairly significantly. You can even make the argument that Assassin's Creed 2 is fairly significantly different game than Assassin's Creed 1. It's not that big of a difference, but there was kind of some major control changes and a shift in focus of the main character. Moving on, we have plenty of news, so really can't linger too much on speculation of the Tomb Raider. And certainly, they're in early production, so whatever the next Tomb Raider game is, it could be completely different. I wouldn't be surprised one bit if that script was intentionally leaked out as a way of testing the water. I'm actually a little bit surprised that that doesn't happen more often. Just send that to the graveyard, even though theoretically I shouldn't do that, but I don't know why that guy brought a card to the field anyways. Dr. Disrespect has revealed his first gameplay demo for his first-person shooter called Dead Drop, which, okay. Is this a game that is really worth talking about? I guess would be the question. Because if this was just a first-person shooter released by random people, would it be newsworthy? Or is the celebrity of Dr. Disrespect relevant enough to justify talking about a game like this? So far, this looks like a slightly better polished than most kind of asset flip first person shooter game. I'm not sure if asset flip is a fair statement to really say here because I'm not really seeing any evidence of actual asset flipping, but yeah, not really seeing anything kind of amazing here. I'm not even really seeing any enemies yet, so that probably means they haven't programmed any kind of artificial intelligence for the characters, and that's something that could easily kill the development of a game, or at least cause a significant delay. So he may be very premature in showing his gameplay footage, unless it is a game that literally isn't going to have any artificial intelligence and you are just running around shooting still dummies. Besides his name and celebrity, what is Dr. Disrespect going to add to a first-person shooter or any video game is the real question. So far, it is a 0% success rate as far as any YouTube celebrity having their name associated with any video games, in my opinion. The Angry Video Game Nerds games I don't think are good. The Penny Arcade games I haven't played, but they didn't really go anywhere. Let's see. PewDiePie's simulator game I think is mediocre, probably at best. There's probably 2 or 3 more games that have come out, but from somewhat YouTube celebrities. Moving on to the next story, Multiversus players unlocked a new Rick and Morty stage in just 3 hours. A community challenge required players to accrue 10 million ring outs. Now, is Multiversus still in beta? Because, yeah, it's still in the open beta. So that does create an interesting question as far as, would that stage and all progress be reset once it comes out of beta, or is that game, or is that level just going to be unlocked by default? It could go either way, certainly. Right. Best case scenario is to attack here and here, and then return. A lot of hype around Multiversus. Apparently, Tony Hawk gate crashed a video game gig in East London. Quote, I had to join the party. Gate crashing, I suspect is not accurate. I imagine it's fairly easy for Tony Hawk to go anywhere and say, hey, I'm Tony Hawk, will you let me in? And then the people will say, yeah, sure, come in. It would be kind of cool for his age if he literally jumped over a gate or broke in and snuck in. But that is one of those cases where a celebrity would get you out of trouble even if you had done that. As long as they actively don't want... Unless they actively don't want you there, that would be the only real danger. Is if they actively knew that Tony Hawk was going to try to be there and didn't want that to happen. Come on, come on. Trying to move as fast as possible. Right. Activate that. Activate that. Activate that. It'd be so nice if we could script some of this so it'd just play. Well, that didn't quite work. I'd hoped for more success there. Anyways, the story continues. The pro skater appeared on stage to perform songs from the game series. Here's Tony Hawk here, and you can see all these people are pretty old looking. And then here's your typical concert experience now. Somebody in the first couple of rows, multiple people in the first couple of rows filming things, which seriously they really need to just say, hey, we've got a guy with a camera that's better than the camera on your iPhone recording this. You don't need to record this, just sit and enjoy. Just enjoy the concert. Don't sit or mosh or whatever you're gonna do, but just enjoy the concert, and we'll give you the link to the video after the fact. Even if it's not going to be a video that you put out publicly for everybody, it's fairly easy to say, for the price of the ticket you get a special link to a YouTube video. So just to get people to stop with that nonsense of filming it themselves. And if that doesn't work, then they really should just adopt the idea of locking people's phones in bags. I guess, controlling as that may be. Right. Oh, I see. Once again, I stymied myself because this was on the field. This card here is causing all the trouble. One, two, three, four. Summon there. Activate this. One, two, three. Summon this. But just not bother activating that. We will go ahead and just activate that. Alright, keep on playing. Tony Hawk also announced that he's entering the world of blockchain games and plans to build the biggest skate park in the metaverse in partnership with the virtual world game called the Sandbox and NFT platform, the Autograph. So there's a danger that we're going to start to see Tony Hawk, who get like, we're going to start seeing articles about Tony Hawk that have very little to do with video games, and we're going to see more stories about him in general, just as he's trying to either maintain or regain relevance. Let's see. Sony says it believes that Xbox owning Call of Duty could influence users' console choice. Regulatory docs reveal the PlayStation's firm thoughts on the Activision Blizzard acquisition, which, of course, Sony, as a competitor to Microsoft, is going to try to make an argument to the FTC to block the acquisition. If anything, I think Microsoft is going to be painted in an odd position where they're going to have to just make the argument that's probably true to say that Call of Duty as a series is not that influential as it once was, and that Call of Duty really is more of a failed series at this point than a thriving series. Yeah. It's probably also worth pointing out that Blizzard is contractually committed to releasing only the next 3 Call of Duty games for PlayStation consoles, which next 3 sounds like quite a lot, frankly. I just don't see Microsoft being that stupid, frankly. Like, that they would try to actually just have a monopoly or kind of a semi-monopoly on games from companies they acquire. I could see it happening like 5-10 years down the line when somebody else is in charge and they've decided to go in a different direction, but like by default I think Microsoft is going to still, I think, try to have their games released on every platform that is reasonable. Now, what could happen is that a new Xbox could come out and then a new PlayStation 6 could come out, and then the PlayStation 6 is severely underpowered, or no PlayStation 6 comes out at all, and so there's a new Xbox and no competitor, really. And then at that point, you are in a position where Microsoft may say, well, the only place we can logically release these games are our own consoles and PC. And I could see if, say, Sega tried to make a console, or some new company tried to make a console, I could see Microsoft not really embracing that new console. If the console wars concept just died, effectively, and there was just a Nintendo Switch which would always have underpowered and fewer games, and then there was only the Xbox left as far as consoles otherwise, as far as AAA, like expensive consoles, then I could see Microsoft only putting Call of Duty on that. But on the other hand, even 5 and 10 years down the line, I have to more lean towards the thought that Call of Duty is going to struggle to build up sales and maintain relevancy so much that they are going to specifically go out of their way to put Call of Duty on as many compatible platforms as possible. Moving on, a new Pokemon Presents presentation will take place on Wednesday. That's too many P's for a headline, which I guess that's an announcement for an announcement from Video Games Chronicle. And then PlayStation announces an EVO 2022 live show and teases exciting reveals this week, including news from Arc System Works, Warner, Capcom, SNK, and Bandai Namco. Which, okay, we'll apparently get some announcements for some games. Apex Legends Season 14 will deliver a long requested level cap increase, which, if people have been long requesting level cap increases, that says they haven't really been supporting the game well enough, depending on how many people have been requesting level caps increases. If the vast majority of people still haven't hit the level cap, that might be an issue. There definitely have been some games I've played where you hit the level cap and it just never gets increased at all. Effectively, if I get to level 50 in Yu-Gi-Oh! Master Duel, I've hit the level cap for that game, and I don't particularly expect to see the level cap ever get increased that much. And if you were to increase the level cap, for instance, in Master Duel, you'd almost expect to get 1,000 gems for going one more level up. Some massive reward. So massive a reward that it would feel incredibly unfair to people who are nowhere close to the level cap. And so then it becomes a catch-22 where the people that would want the level cap would also want a massive reward, and then the people that are anywhere close to the level cap would be upset by that massive reward. Particularly for collectible card games, I feel like hitting a level cap or hitting a level in general makes a good argument to unlocking a bunch of old cards that are like very low quality, low usability cards. Like if I hit level 1 and they gave me all the cards in the Yu-Gi-Oh! Real World trading card game from the first expansion, and then you had to hit another level cap for the next expansion and the next expansion, that would be a reward system that would be much better integrated into the actual game you're playing. Whereas you have the Duel Pass, which you hit level 100 at that. You could level cap that, increase that to 200, and give twice as many rewards, and that would be, I think, something that most people would be more than happy with, because it's far too easy to get to level 100 there. Yeah, there's 28 more days, so they could take that from 100 to 200 fairly quickly. And we are already done with all the news, or all the daily quests. But I still need to play to just try to get higher up. But yeah, having a specific duelist level right now at 29. When I get to 30, you get 50 gems. Really, for the effort, it probably should be closer to 1,000 gems per level. You're getting on some of these level ups just a legacy pack, which is, I guess, the equivalent of 100 gems. And then even getting all the way to level 50, you're only getting one legacy pack. I don't think that there is actually a specific way to even see the cards based on their expansion. No. I don't think that they've got that data even put into the cards themselves. As far as when did this normal card originally get released in the game. But if with each level they just made sure that you had a 10th or even a 20th or 50th of all the cards available, since we know there's about 6,000 cards, that would be a much better reward. Just making sure every player has access to a bunch of cards, even if they are all useless cards. Moving on, the last Video Games Chronicle article, Apex Legends Season 14 features a major Kings Canyon update, including a new point of interest, relic, and visual upgrade. Which, I have no idea what a point of interest relic even is. I'm not even sure I really know what Apex Legends is. It looks like a Fortnite clone, but I would have thought it was a MOBA if you'd asked me without showing me any of the pictures. Alright, well, this will be almost certainly the last weekend in which I have the adult content unlocked while we go through some games here. There's a decent amount of games that came out over the weekend. And yes, immediately furry android hentai shows up. It does put you in a slightly different position as far as games that have sexual content in them. The character that's depicted is frankly not really what I would call a furry. It looks like it's some kind of bunny girl that is also in a latex like spacesuit and face mask. So it feels very odd visually. It definitely feels low quality. They're supposed to be android girls, I guess is what they're saying. But I can hardly call this an Eastern game because it doesn't support anything other than English. Ooh, that might be part of the problem though. I had not looked at it from that perspective, but yeah. Since I started filtering out English only games, that means anything that would have been Japanese only that was an adult game also has been filtered out. So this is probably a great example of ruining your input and garbage in, garbage out now. Because for the past 2 or 3 weeks I've had adult games and I've been looking at it and I've been saying, well, I'm not seeing anywhere as many Eastern games as I should be seeing Western games. Of course I haven't been seeing them. I filtered out games that didn't support English. There could have easily have been 3, 4, 5 times as many Eastern, particularly Japanese adult games that were released in the past 2 or 3 weeks, and they would have just been Japanese only. So yeah, my theory's out the window. I either start over again and take the incredible risk of showing adult content on the channel for a couple more weeks and include Japanese games. Plus that means I'm also going to include Japanese games that are that aren't adult games into the mix. or I just give up and click the adult filter and stop covering adult games altogether. It's going to take more effort, but the right move is to turn on Japanese language games. That still filters out Russian only games, that still filters out Chinese games, which we've definitely, I definitely appreciate that level of censorship of as far as the curation of the games I'm actually looking at. It's not particularly fair to Chinese game developers or Russian game developers, but unfortunately the truth is there's just so many low effort Chinese and Russian games, whereas the Japanese only games tend to be slightly better quality. Yeah, let's go through some more games. No Man's Island Prologue here. Yeah, it's a prologue and doesn't look like anything. Powerball 2022 is nothing. Jigsaw puzzles, nothing. Seabed Frog. Turn-based strategy game. Is it actually out? It's actually out, so I'll give it a follow, even though I suspect there's nothing here. Quest Escape Dungeon. I guess the case is I saw enough RPG Maker games over the past couple of weeks that I assumed that I was still seeing Japanese only games, but I guess I really wasn't. So yeah, I totally just screwed that up. This is probably nothing but a screenshots, and it's coming soon, so I'm not going to put it on the follow list. This almost certainly is nothing, and it's coming soon. Still Be a Human, early access. A dark screenshot syndrome, hack and slash bullet hell game. Action roguelike is what it's tagged as. Yeah, I have to say no to this. This doesn't quite feel quality enough. The dark shadows part of that's going to make it annoying. Kapow Pets doesn't look like anything. I have to remind myself also that I'm looking still to make YouTube shorts, so War on Belrock is all text. Kevlon looks like an old Commodore type game, Atari type game. Alright. Then we have a game called The One Chapter 1, which is tagged as nudity. And it looks like it's a bunch of fairly buff guys. So it's guy on guy gay games. There is one screenshot that is pornographic, or at least shows a naked man. I guess you wouldn't really call that pornographic per se. We definitely don't get a lot of guy on guy action, certainly in games, but it is just another average looking, visually speaking, visual novel. Graphics definitely seem to always be lackluster. The Centium looks like a first person shooter that's coming soon. System Intrusion looks like nothing. The fact that I am seeing adult games that came out over the weekend, I think once again does push towards the idea that it isn't just Eastern adult games that are getting only released on the weekends every 2 weeks. My theory I think does have to evolve to say that a significant amount of adult games in general seem to be limited to the release every 2 weeks. Which almost certainly that screams that there is a limitation of you have whoever's in charge of approving submissions on Steam has 2 weeks to get it done, and they intentionally just put off looking at adult games until the last second. That would be my assumption as to how it came about to be that case. And arguably there may not be any real nefarious intent in that action. There's just a lack of realization how that leads to nefarious actions. It's Dreadful Hours I'll put on the fall list. I don't feel like I got to play on that game at all. I feel like that guy just one turn killed me very slowly. Which that'll happen. Let's see. Rooftop Garden Simulator. Visually this looks fairly nice, but is there really a game there? It's like a farming sim on a rooftop. Why, if you're going to have fiction, why not just have fiction of having plots of lands to do gardening on the ground instead of on the rooftop? Inherently, rooftop gardening is a compromise of space and ability, technology, and funds, certainly. Because if you had infinite technology and funds, you'd do hydroponics on a rooftop, or you would have better space than just have a garden on the ground. This looks like a pretty garbage puzzle. And we're burning through these games a lot faster than I thought I was going to. Let's go through the Gemetsu articles then. Full Metal Alchemist Mobile launches August 4th in Japan, which I will be interested to see what that game actually looks like and how that game is actually received. It kind of looks like a gacha game. This is a long broadcast. Seems like it has some action sequences to it. Almost certainly, though, that the mobile experience of telling Full Metal Alchemist as a story is going to be weirdly compromised in some way. And they're not doing the whole Brotherhood subtitle, which I don't know if there really is any reason to hold on to the Brotherhood subtitle in other series or other iterations. The only reason Full Metal Alchemist originally was called Full Metal Alchemist is because they were making anime as the manga was still going on, and at a certain point they just had to make it up in the whole process to continue, because they ran out of source material. That's what I'm trying to say. Yeah. And I think many people would argue that there is a equally as good, if not better, version of Full Metal Alchemist in the made up as they were going version of Full Metal Alchemist than there was in Full Metal Alchemist Brotherhood, which was based actually off the manga once the manga had finally finished. And that doesn't happen too often in anime, like the Bleach filler arcs and the Dragon Ball Z filler arcs. What are some Dragon Ball Z tournament arcs? Will probably filler arcs too. I think it's most notably the Bleach filler arcs were not that good and not well received. Put that in the graveyard. This Hexy Trudy looks interesting as a character. Let's just go ahead and activate this ability. Well, I guess the danger certainly here, and I'm starting to feel it, was by waking up early and then having my sleep schedule shifted to an earlier point. I might start to get tired in the middle of this stream, and that's what I'm starting to feel, is I'm starting to get a little bit sleepy. So we probably should call this game the last one. We've already gotten the daily quest done. We're not going to get it all the way to platinum in the first day. I can now go back to being fairly lazy about not really playing Yu-Gi-Oh! On the off days, which that also needs to happen, so I have actual free time to make other recorded footage. I can't special summon this character because this character's on the field. So arguably I should always have not play this character and just hold it in my hand, if that's going to be the case. Let's see, Gamasso says, Season A Letter to the Future has been delayed to Q1 of 2023. So it's not a game I particularly recognize at all. The game Grounded finally comes out of early access on September 27th, which I'll be interested to see if anybody actually cares about that Honey, I Shrunk the Kids clone. Really feels like there should have been a remake of Honey, I Shrunk the Kids around that game, or the release of that game. Let's see, Oni Road to the Mightiest Oni has been confirmed for the PS5, PS4, and PC, which Oni is Japanese for demon, which there might be something interesting around that. The Tower to the Bottom launches in late 2022 for PC, which looks like it is a card-based Darkest Dungeon clone type game. Hmm. Okay. The trick here. Right. We'll just do this, I guess. Take out 3 cards. Summon this. And then we'll guess try this. And that seems like nothing there is gonna win. Gamatsu has 10 minutes to clear. Action game. 34 Everlast. Has a second trailer, which I don't understand the idea of 10 minutes to clear per se, unless that literally means you have to just constantly run through a game to defeat it in 10 minutes. Which, if you are going to have a game that you have to beat in 10 minutes, then that does feel like you are going to have a lot of repetition. Half Minute Hero had somewhat of that concept, but then you also had a lot of refreshing and resetting. And if you are going to have to fight things, then that does feel like you would have to lock them into boss battles. Otherwise it would be fairly easy to just constantly run away. That's an interesting concept, certainly. That if it really does, if you're gonna just have to play over and over again and you get some kind of like XP roguelite thing where you get faster or stronger each run, and then eventually beating the game in 10 minutes is your goal and your success level. Let's go ahead and open the pack of 10 here, and I think that is pretty much all I want to do today as far as Yu-Gi-Oh! And we'll just wrap up today's stream. Actually, I want to open a second 10 pack because we got an ultra rare, and I figure why not ride your good luck if you're going to end up with an ultra rare. Slowly, ever so slowly, these legacy packs are filling in our collection. But then also, this is like the 4th copy of the super rare, which should mean I could then dissolve it into crafting points. Let's see, dismantle extra cards. Yep, that seemingly means that that 4th copy of that card, for some reason or other, I don't have a single version of that I can actually dismantle which is probably true because I probably got 3 copies of it from a single player structured deck. And it seems like I have far too many cards that I have are like that. I guess this is how you would irritate yourself, is you would go over here and you'd say number owned like this, and then you would just say, yeah, I have a bunch of distributed cards and cards obtained from structure decks, which has left me with 7 copies of Karate Man, and then 6 copies of the Cyber Dragon, and 6 copies of quite a few other things. Arguably, it's not too bad. You're mostly sticking to just 4 copies of cards for a lot of cards. I suppose there isn't. Yeah, this is as far as it goes, so it's not a huge number. And I suppose there isn't a way to break out of this, where if you generated like 3 cards, then maybe then you could break the system and make it think that you could dismantle all the other cards. Nah, I doubt that's how that would go. Moving on, a Clifftown adventure game called Calm has been confirmed for Switch and PC, which Clifftown as a description doesn't mean too much to me. I think there's a reason why there's basically no modern city that is built into the edge of a cliff. Just too easy to fall off the edge of a cliff for that to make sense. I imagine there's a couple places that are somewhat like that, but people need flat land for a lot of different reasons. Rain runoff alone is one major reason. Ray-Z's Arcade Chronology and Ray Storm X and Ray Crisis HD collection are coming to the West, which I guess those are shoot 'em up games. Komatsu says Melty Blood type Lumnia's free DLC characters Mash Creelite and Nico Arc have been announced, which is definitely a different animation style and different type of character than this. Yep, that does seem like kind of a joke character. And a really unfair character too. You can see how small the hitboxes are probably going to be for this character, unless the hitbox is actually the same size as everybody else and this character just gets hit when you're not visually making any contact at all, which that might also be a fair way to do it. You can see this is a collection of mostly anime girl fighters. There's not a lot of male characters. And they all feel like they might be from the Fate Stay universe, but I'm not sure. And then Fate Extra Record has a 2022 trailer, so that definitely is from the Fate Stay universe. Alright, let's see. Next we have another adult game here called Armor Girl Simulator, which is tagged as nudity and maturity, when actually I'm not really seeing anything like this. This one claims to support Japanese and English. Provocative costumes and nude Since this is mostly just a low effort character generator, it being labeled as nudity is, or having nudity is probably not a smart way to go with that kind of game. Those kind of character generators are mostly useless because at best all you're doing is creating characters to use in your Dungeons and Dragons games. Like, these kinds of characters don't export into other games, or not easily. You can't mod them into other characters. The font here looks so bad for Vespa's test that I'm gonna have to say no. Otherwise, there might have been something to this. Of course, I'm also being very careful here to only put things that actually have release dates on the fall list, which is causing me to say no to a lot of these coming soons anyways. I'm gonna give this a chance. I am probably getting worse and worse about putting mediocre games on the fall list, but it doesn't seem to be as big of a problem as it could be. Retreat to Enon instead of Eden. Yeah, there might be something there. Even on this weekend that we really aren't running into a lot of adult games. We're saying 2 or 3. So the number seems fairly small. Rally, 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 alley, alley. And these cars have roads they're putting down in front of them. Interesting idea. Doesn't make sense towards a game though. Damnation. Doesn't really feel like there's anything in there. Not. They really need to show the enemies in any kind of first-person shooter, and show at least a clue as to who you would be shooting. Fox's tail. Yeah, there might be something to that, but it's coming soon. Beaver clicker. It's probably just a dumb pun. So no to that. Fire all humans. Looks like it's just a puzzle game. Frankly, if so many of these weren't coming soon games, I'd barely have any games to talk about at all this Monday. Maybe that's just because I started early this Monday, or it may just be that we're getting into a season where we're going to have less announcements and less releases until like Black Friday happens. Because I am really not seeing anything here of any interest at all. Yep. And then I may have put some things on the follow list and forgotten to put them on the YouTube Shorts. Cracking the Cryptic is the name of a YouTube channel that does Sudoku style games. So, yeah, curated Sudoku puzzles from YouTube's most popular Sudoku channel, Cracking the Cryptic, which is free to play. And then $5 for Domino Sudoku. So that should get a YouTube short. And then Marauder is there a real game here? I don't tend to think there is here, but this looks weird enough. It feels a lot like one of those animes that was on Netflix that wasn't even really an anime. There was one in particular where everybody was on the rooftops and they all had these different masks. I'm not sure everybody that had a different mask got some kind of psychic power, but yeah, that's an interesting collection of characters with different abilities. See, here's the danger, is that if I'm just looking to do a daily PC game, and I'm starting to get desperate because there aren't that many daily PC games coming out, I might be tempted to highlight something like this, where it really is just going to be an asset flip first person shooter survival game. But I'm not sure I'm quite ready to go that direction versus just not having anything to show. Of course, I also don't want to go in the direction of joke games like Obama Maze. So we have very little news as far as video games. GameDeveloper.com. In fact, it's literally just this one story. New guidelines will prohibit Google Play developers from using unexpected advertising. Google said the new guidelines are designed to ensure high quality experiences for users and players. There definitely are some tricky advertising things that that are on Google apps, as far as just like full screen interstitial adverts. They hit users when they take certain actions. That's one that's annoying. Ads that appear during gameplay at the beginning of a level or during the beginning of a content segment are not allowed. Full video interstitial ads that appear before the app's loading screen, splash screen are not allowed. Well, that being in front of the splash screen is pretty awful. Full screen interstitial ads of all formats that are not closable after 15 seconds are not allowed. Well, the 15 seconds rule in particular would be great. Opt-in full screen interstitial ads or full screen interstitial ads that do not interrupt users in their action. For example, after a score screen in a game app may persist more than 15 seconds. So there's already loopholes that they'll try for. Of course, Google changing its policy, or Google Ads changing its policies, doesn't speak word one as far as enforcement. So yeah, there's still something to that. Here we have some follow list cleanup, where here we have a tower defense kind of Plants vs. Zombies game called The Last Friend, which that is relevant because it has 30 reviews and is positive, so that goes on the wish list. The Last Element, looking forward to tomorrow. Same thing. So we'll put that on the wish list. Black Rock, The Last Crown, Black and Rock says coming soon, so that'll leave the follow list. Anything that says coming soon should go away, even if it is something that looks kind of interesting. They'll just have to catch my attention later. The Last Clockwinder. Is this a VR game? Yes, it is. So that'll stay on the follow list. Last Bug. I wish I could create a different list for VR games. This is early access from 2022. It is rated positive, so it's relevant, but it says it also is English only, and then you have a whole bunch of Asian writing. So there's an inconsistency there. It looks like garbage. So that should leave the follow list. Not sure why that was even on the follow list. This game needs more time. The Lab requires VR, so can't do anything with it until I have a VR headset, or if I ever have a VR headset. The Kind Chamomile is mixed. The Killing Cloud looks like an old game that I don't recognize, so I'm going to take that off. The Duel Monostructure looks like a visual novel, which at this point I guess I'm okay with putting things that were on the follow list as visual novels on the wish list. At some point I may need to do a wish list cleanup and change my attention on that. And then on Jackbox Party Pack, which I can put these on the wish list, but even if somebody gifted them to me, there's very little you can do in single player. In the Jackbox Party Packs, maybe nothing. You can see the game says it has to be shared split screen PvP. So owning them, those games, is definitely not a high priority for me. Alright, let's cover a few more things and then we'll just call it a day. This is going to probably be incredibly unfair. One guy who played 100% of the Taos Principle received an honorary philosophy degree, which there is a lot of philosophy in the Taos Principle, but I don't think there's enough there to justify getting an honorary degree. And in almost all cases, getting an honorary degree is cronyism and rich people either bribing the colleges for honorary degrees or being honored because they're rich. Let's see. Yeah, they're almost certainly were. The story to here, yeah, as I'm just trying to scroll through it and all, it's kind of odd that they don't even have a picture of his face, or they're just echoing the picture of the robot in the Taos Principle so much that they wouldn't show his face. Almost certainly it wasn't just one person that 100%ed the Taos Principle. I don't think it's that hard to get all the achievements there, or do everything there. And since almost certainly there was more than one person, you would think if they were going to do that, they needed to give an honorary degree to everybody, which maybe they don't want to give that many degrees out. There would be an interesting thought, certainly, if the creators of the Talos Principle Crow team, I believe it was, had worked with a college, in this case Harvard, which Harvard is also a big name to get an honorary degree from, which I think once again highlights that almost certainly this was a rich person or a celebrity that they're giving the degree to, and not just an average person that is more likely, possibly more deserving. Um, but yeah, I could see it being interesting if they gave degrees out to everybody that 100%ed the game, but also then that also highlights how valueless a philosophy honorary degree actually would have to be for them to give them out. Even giving out one really shows that a philosophy degree, even from Harvard, isn't as valuable as it should be. You've devalued the efforts of the people that actually studied hard to get those kinds of degrees. Um, and arguably, a lot of degrees are valueless and worthless, and colleges have devalued the value of a degree quite a bit. And I'm not sure there ever really should have been a point where degrees were valuable in the first place, because knowledge is not this finite resource that colleges have a monopoly on, um, nor is certification or nor are colleges even that good at certifying and proving that people are capable of regurgitating said knowledge. Um, at least with certifications in particular, you have to pass tests to prove you know things, where degrees, depending on the degree plan, you don't even have that much of a standardized test. But I don't really want to get into a rant around that. The ESA retweeted Gamers Outreach showing off their carts that they are giving out as far as controls and gaming carts. I really would like to know what the real rules are legally versus what the rules are that are expected to exist, as far as why this is considered acceptable, but and this is probably $5,000 or more for this cart to play video games on, where why is this considered acceptable, and yet just having a TV and a computer with some controllers not considered acceptable, because there, besides there being a lot of plastic that you can spray down with Lysol alcohol and clean, and beside there being these like handle grips to drag it around and maybe act as bumpers so you don't bump into walls, and it being on wheels, there's not a lot of difference visually from for this versus anything else. Doesn't even really feel like there is a system here designed for an easy way to clean controllers, or even hold cleaning parts or components. And this is just a regular LCD TV, so if you started spraying this quite a bit, almost certainly you would get liquid down the edges of the bezel and break the TV. It's not even really a good setup as far as what you would hope for. Yeah, if you were looking for a mobile gaming station of some sort, I really wouldn't be looking towards something that looked like this. That the screen can't fold down or go away. Doesn't seem like there's a place for a lot of games. It doesn't seem like you even have direct access to the console. Yeah, it feels like there is definitely a case where it's one of these medical technology things that aren't actually that technologically advanced, and yet they can they have a monopoly on what is allowed in a hospital, and thus they can overcharge. Like, almost every single hospital room already has a TV on the wall. In fact, it already has a special TV on the wall that can be controlled with what is called a pillow speaker slash pillow remote. I forget what it's called, what the name of it is. So that there's already this special element to it, but otherwise it's just a regular TV. So it would make so much sense that in each one of those rooms there should be a HDMI in that you could just plug into the TV and plug in a console. Controllers are wireless for the most part nowadays, so having a whole collection of controllers and having one specific controller for each patient, and once the patient is discharged, you would wash that controller and hand it to a new patient, would be a lot easier to do. There is Wi-Fi signals already pretty much allowed in every hospital. The days of you need to turn off your cell phone, otherwise you might set off some pacemaker somewhere, have long since been abandoned as a concept. So the controllers don't really need to be wired. Even if that were the case, the controllers still would work wired through just USB connectors fine. So having a whole separate TV and a whole separate station doesn't make any sense at all. If anything, they should probably get rid of a lot of the cable providers they have in hospitals, but I understand the idea of keeping things simple for old people that don't understand how to use streaming services. But it would be fairly easy for, like, Apple TV or Roku to say, hey, we'll give you an infinite amount of streaming sticks and hospital accounts where you can just stream your videos. People can stream videos all to their desire. Moving on, Sony put out this notice that they are discontinuing accolades on the PlayStation 5 console. In fall of 2022, accolades featured on the PlayStation 5 will no longer be supported. This feature hasn't seen the level of usage we've anticipated, and they're reinforcing their efforts. We encourage the community to send positive messages to one another, which I have no idea what accolades really are, and I don't think many people knew what that was, and then that's why nobody was using it. They didn't advertise it. Also, apparently changing Trend Micro safety services. So this is some kind of like filtered internet service they're discontinuing. You won't be able to transfer content between the PS3 and the PS Vita systems anymore. Signing in with the PS3 and Vita, purchasing with the PS3 and Vita. So they're just continuing anything basically for PS3 and Vita. They're no longer going to sell or rent TV content on the movie or TV content on the PlayStation Store. So they've abandoned that. Wow, they are really just getting rid of a lot of services. Just shutting down the PSP store, PlayStation Store for PSP. Well, actually, a lot of these are things that already have been shut down. Let's see, this was August 31st. So it seems like we are going down the list of services that they have abandoned. Which maybe you don't make a website that is a easy to find list of everything you've abandoned. Let's see, what's the oldest thing here? 2015. If anything, let's see. If we're about half the page, this is 2021. This is 2020. This is 2020. Not dating some of these. Hmm. 2020. I can't help but feel that a significant amount of these features that have been shuttered were shuttered after Jim Ryan and Sony Entertainment Interactive of California took over. Like, you've got one from 2019, you've got one from 2018, maybe two or three from 2018, one from 2017, one from 2015, as far as features stopped. And then you start here with 2020, and there's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19 different features between now and 2020 that have been shut down. That is quite a lot. It's not just a random collection. That's not just a small amount. Which, yeah, that does not speak towards good support, good long-term support for the PlayStation services and the PlayStation 4 in general. I would not be suggesting buying a PS4 or PS5 at this point. 9 hours ago, the Epic Games Store said they were aware and investigating an issue where purchases were not working through Zola. The issue was resolved 6 hours ago. This is yet another example of the Epic Games Store having to admit problems, or deciding to admit problems on Twitter. Apparently, the content manager of Telltale Games left the phone in his pocket and was oddly retweeting things. At least that's their claim. I don't know if there's a deeper story to that. Yeah. They apparently were retweeting NFT promotion according to this one person, which maybe that was maybe that was an experiment that was immediately 180'd. But yeah, that seems like a weird thing. Let's see, do we have anything else to talk about? Here's a artistic rendering of the lady who died in her youth. played Uhura. Let's see. Probably didn't need to reboot there. This happened a couple days ago, but missed for Oculus Quest released version 1.8.0, which added hand tracking, journaling, in-game screenshot features are now supported, cloud saves are now supported, Polish and Russian localization have been added, classic video mode is now supported, motion controller orientation locked movement for smooth movement is now supported. And then the missed app size is about 4 gigabytes smaller and tons of fixes and other improvements. And then it seems like I'm not really having any network problems, but it seems like Yu-Gi-Oh! Master Duel here's having some trouble. Right. And yeah, I think we already had talked about Valve stopping developers from having accolades and marketing copy in the banner art, so no more 100% 10 out of 10 type stuff. Here they've got some kind of great examples of here. No more Steam Festival Fests ads in the banner art. Just trying to clean up the banner art, I imagine, quite a bit to make it work on Steam Decks and look better on Steam Decks. I guess what I'll do there is, since we haven't gone is I'll go through my Twitter feed and just make sure if there's any major new news to talk about before we wrap up. Here we have a Video Games Chronicle article saying a Diablo Immortal player claims to have spent about $100,000 on microtransaction, and he's saying he could seek a refund after losing access because his skill level was too high, which I don't know if that means he was actually cheating and he doesn't want to admit it, or if his skill level actually was so high that the game just assumed he was cheating and banned him from the game. Which inherently, you've got to figure out a system in which you don't ban games, ban players just because they're good at games or just because they're showing high level skill. You need to be able to actually prove something more, actual cheating. Platinum Games is giving out, I guess, an outfit for a Festival of the Sun in Babylon's Fall, which I believe is one of those games that failed miserably on day one. I'm a little shocked that how quickly it failed and people forgot about it. And so I guess at this point they are desperate enough that they're giving out costumes that are definitely just bikinis. And that might bring a few more eyes to Babylon's Fall, but I doubt it will bring enough eyes to Babylon's Fall. Square Enix, I believe, was the publisher for Babylon's Fall and just did not put any effort at all into advertising the game. And arguably it may have been released at the wrong time too. Still scrolling down my Twitter feed. Trying to read everything and doing kind of a poor job about reading fast enough. You know, it probably says something about how badly Stranger Things on Netflix finished. If since I'm just talking here, um, in that somebody asked me if there were any new episodes of it, and I actually had to go back and check to see if there had been any new episodes since the last one I watched. Um, and for my case, no, there weren't any new episodes that I hadn't seen. They they just kind of end the season setting up for another season, which honestly they really should have just broken down the the number of episodes into broken down the length of the episodes so that they were much closer to 30 minutes instead of being 2.5 hour movies, and then they could have stretched for a lot longer for a fourth season and just had a really long season that had 4 or 5 times as many episodes instead of having about 8 episodes or maybe even 12, go for 24 or 36. I don't even know if Netflix is doing that whole shenanigans where they are actively signed to a certain number of seasons, and thus they make these really, really long seasons so that they don't have to renegotiate the contracts as often and people don't try to get raises as often. Um, yeah, I haven't heard anything about Netflix doing that, but for Stranger Things in particular, I do know they've already spent a ton of money, so having longer seasons. If there had been a Stranger Things that was releasing new episodes on the weekly for like an entire summer and an entire fall, then that would have been that would have kept more people coming back on a weekly basis, probably. At least that would be my speculation. There's a couple pieces of news here. The game Massage Freaks, this was the game that was a rhythm slash groping game, and arguably it was better. You should be. It's better described as a groping game first and a rhythm game second. Is going to be renamed Beat Refly, like Beat Reflex without the X, uh, and it's now available on PC. Um, the thing here, though, is that they oddly came back and said they might censor this game, and there's just like not a game there at all if you censor it. Like there's no way to get around it because that's the only sales point here is that you are massaging slash groping anime girls. Now let's see if we scroll down here and see actual mature content, nudity, sexual content, sexual themes, intense language, all of those are there. If anything, this rhythm game might even be somewhat a way to try and learn reflexology slash massaging, but I can't help but assume that in the effort to make it an actual game, the actual massaging is not accurate. The art of being good at giving a good massage, shoulder massage or otherwise, is not passed on very much to person to person, and arguably more people should probably experiment in massaging and figuring out how to do it right without hurting people or causing pain. It probably should be taught as some level of dating slash interaction. Because even here, when you see if this is supposed to be the representation of fingers slash thumbs being put into the back shoulder blades of this character, this anime girl, which that's the implication here. You can see a shadow of a hand. Like, that probably, depending on the amount of pressure and the motions, could be very painful doing that. So, yeah. But at the very least, I guess this game should be on the fall list. And there's, I guess this is one also to potentially put on YouTube as a short. But yeah, there is a chance that it's going to be censored, and it's odd that they would say there's a chance for that. I'll just brag on myself a little bit here and say 23 views in a couple of hours, 3 or 4 hours, maybe 5, for this YouTube short. Really is going to show that the YouTube shorts seem to have gotten some steam. And for something that effectively I don't have to put any effort into, these YouTube shorts are fairly easy. All I have to do is run a program for about a minute or two. Let's be generous and say 2 minutes, and then upload the video and reuse the same information. So it's not a lot of work. I'm not talking in the YouTube shorts. I'm not scripting anything. In fact, if this was an ad copy that couldn't be copyrighted in the first place, it would downright be in no way considered fair use. What I'm making here is because I am just redoing ad copy of Steam's website and advertisements. I'm not contributing much of anything. I have just a song that's a YouTube content ID proof song, or it should be, playing. I didn't make the song either. So all I've done is made a combination of music and video of a web page and merged it together to make a mix, which even that mix is probably not enough to fall under what you would consider fair use. I don't know why I'm arguing against my own interest there, but I'll just be honest and say, yeah, if I was doing the same thing with things that were copyrightable, and someone copyright claimed it, I don't think I would have a defense in court. But maybe a lawyer could find a defense. Moving on, game websites including Steam and Epic Games have been blocked in Indonesia until websites like Steam, Battle.net, and PayPal comply with the rules imposed by the Indonesian government. They will remain inaccessible. Tell me if you've heard this story before of a Asian country blocking websites and being incredibly restrictive. What are the rules by the Indonesian government? That is the question here. There's a lot of reference to Chinese censorship of game sites, which that does happen, but let's stay on topic. Indonesian regulations require websites to register with its government, granting officials the power to compel platforms to hand over certain user data and remove any content they deem unlawful within a 24-hour period. Okay, so they want total control under no rule of law whatsoever. Apparently, multiple tech companies rushed to complete the registration by the deadline on Friday. Yep. Okay. Well, now we know. I don't feel like there's too much else to take from that story. Is that yes, yet another controlling totalitarian Asian country does something controlling and totalitarian-esque. Alright, well, I guess that's gonna be it for this stream. Don't have any other news stories to talk about. As always, I ask you to like, share, subscribe, comment, and watch every second of my videos. If you want a friend to follow me on any social media sites, there's a whole bunch of links down below. And if you want to support me further, there's a link to Patreon, or you can friend me on Steam and get me a game off my wishlist. Thank you for watching. Have a good evening.